Some interesting news coming out of the hiking world this week. I saw this post by Matt Topo on Instagram that says Google startup has created robotic trousers to facilitate climbing and walking. So I thought I'd make a video talking about this because I think it's really interesting. You can see some of the comments here. Obviously people have different opinions of it. Someone says more for the landfill. Another person here says it's the next logical step from knee braces. And I asked you guys what you thought about this on my Instagram. So I want to share some of your thoughts. I want to take a look at who's behind this project, who's working on it. And as always, I will share my thoughts with you guys on this. Let's dive into it. So the company behind this is Skip. Their website is skipwithjoy.com. And we see straight away that this is built in conjunction with ArcTeryx, so that it looks like these are ArcTeryx trousers with this bionic knee kind of on the outside. And from what I've understood, it is basically connecting down into the heel of the ankle and creating some kind of structure of support around the knee. But I guess they're probably pretty quiet about the technology they're using. Maybe they don't want other people to steal their ideas. This kind of thing has been happening for quite a while though. In my space where I'm creating videos about knees that are getting over 200,000 views, I get people contacting me all the time, companies contacting me all the time to essentially kind of shield their product, their knee brace, their bionic knee, their supportive structure for the knee. And as you guys probably know, that is not my goal. You know, I'm interested in what I can do to help the whole human body work better, both in terms of biomechanics, strength, mobility, load tolerance, that kind of thing. So I'm not really looking for a band-aid solution for myself or for my clients for that matter. I'm more interested in getting the body working. But I do like to kind of keep these things in mind because A, they could replace me in the future if this worked really well. I would be out of a job. And also because sometimes we can layer on this technology on top of what we are already doing to improve ourselves. So we can make improvements biomechanically while in the meantime toning down the amount of load that's going onto the body. And I think this is potentially something that could work. I don't think I would use it, but I think it has some use cases. So I want to talk about my experience with this and other kind of similar products. This is something that I actually have used. This is from a company called Stoko, and they created a revolutionary style knee brace that inbuilt this 90 feet of paracord into what is essentially a compression tight, but much more than a compression tight. Like you see here, you have these adjustment dials. I've actually used these, I've used them in skiing, and I did find them to be actually pretty helpful in terms of feeling like I was a little bit more supported. But of course, with more support comes a reduction in freedom and mobility. Like if you really tighten these things up, you're not really able to get into a deep squat. You feel a lot of restriction around the calf and the ankle, which can sometimes help, but it does kind of generally restrict your mobility. So there's always a trade-off with these things. As you apply more technology, there is going to be a restriction in movement. And from my perspective, movement is medicine, and movement is everything. Like movement is the one thing that we want to be able to improve. So this is kind of something that could potentially bridge the gap, but it's not really something that I would consider to be a long-term permanent solution that I would use for the rest of my life. I personally don't want to be relying on technology to get around the mountains. I want to have a feeling of freedom in my own body. So that's one thing that I have tried. One thing that I haven't tried about 3 years ago was this particular product. Let's take a look at it. This came out about 3 years ago. It is the e-knee. This is some kind of dystopian cyborg looking knee that looks like something Bane would wear. I think the problem with this is like this came out 3 years ago, and it's obviously at the time was, you know, revolutionary technology, but I think it kind of ignores the fact that people kind of want to feel and look cool, and they don't want to be stared at like some kind of cyborg knee freak. Like this kind of thing is going to attract a lot of attention. Like it looks really weird. It looks really clunky. You know, I think they're onto something here, I guess. But yeah, personally, I'm not going to wear that. I don't need to wear it, thankfully. But again, there could be people that could benefit from this, and maybe it works really well. I don't know. But I guess that brings us back to this project that is in conjunction with ArcTeryx. You know, this thing looks relatively low key. I mean, someone could walk past you wearing this and maybe you wouldn't notice. Like, obviously ArcTeryx is a very high end brand, and you know, pants look good. I suppose they look good, and I'm sure they'll continue to improve this product so it looks even sleeker and it's less obvious that you have like a bionic knee. But I guess time will tell. So the one thing that you guys are probably wondering, as I was, like, is how much does this cost? Because immediately, if ArcTeryx is involved with something, like, it's not going to be cheap. We know that, and we can see from this article on Fast Company, really good article by the way, worth a read. This product is called MoGo, so Mountain Goat for short, and it may very well be the world's most accessible exoskeleton at only $4,500. And I'm thinking that's just for one side. So if you have knee problems on both sides, you're looking at $9,000 US, I'm assuming. So this is not for the everyday person, at least at the moment. This is an expensive problem to solve, and so yeah, I'm sure there are people that are willing to pay $4,500 to do literally nothing other than just put a pair of pants on and solve the problem. I guess the larger question here that I have is, like, how does this work? How is it impacting biomechanics? So I want to take a look at that. You know, in this article, we have essentially a review from someone who has used it, and they say turning on the MoGo involves holding on the button for a few seconds. Once booted, the light goes blue. You ramp up or turn down the assistance. I think that is something that is a key feature and something that could be very helpful, because you could scale down that assistance over time so that you start to use more and more muscle and less of the machine. I think that's a very practical application for this, and hopefully you will get to the point where you don't have to use it. But likely, if you spend $4,500 on it, it is something that you kind of want to get the most out of your money for. So there's a tricky thing there as well. In terms of where it kind of interacts with the body, in this article it says that the motor lives at your knee. You don't feel anything in particular there. Rather, climbing up the stairs, it felt like a little bar shoved from below my upper hamstrings, just between my knee and the glutes. And to create this leverage, MoGo anchors to my ankle so that it felt almost like someone was stepping on the back of my heel. And this, to me, is concerning. Whenever we are interrupting the flow of tension and loading through the body with another exterior application, then the body is going to be having to adjust to that. And so I have no idea how this thing works, but I can safely assume that this is going to interrupt how the foot interacts with the ground. It's also going to have implications on how the hips are moving in space as well. So my greatest concern with this would be that it could potentially cause further problems for the foot and the hip and how they interact when you walk. So again, for me, this is something that I probably wouldn't want to utilize on a long-term basis because of the potential negative implications that it could have on biomechanics. And I don't know, obviously, I'm just assuming, because I know the body pretty well, and I know that when you interfere with it, there's potential negative downsides. So I think, you know, for anyone that's genuinely interested in this, like, go and read this article, because it's a pretty well-written article. I'll put it in the description. But for now, I want to get into some of the comments that have come through on my Instagram to see what you guys think. So there's a lot of comments kind of relating this MoGo bionic knee thing to similar to e-bikes. And in fact, here it says in this article, its creators call it the e-bike for hiking. So yeah, a lot of people comparing this to an e-bike. Like Joshua says, that's how I first felt about e-bikes, but when I realized their use case in mountain biking, it completely changed my mind. I see this as mainly for elderly or injured people, giving them access to things they couldn't do otherwise if it works. Yeah, so I guess the key question is like, who are they targeting? So if we go back to the article, it says here that exoskeletons presented a $2 billion market focused mainly on military and rehabilitation. I'm wondering what the military has to do with this, because in the military, I mean, they're obviously really well trained, and I assume that they don't experience too many biomechanical problems. That might not be the case, but are we making, super soldiers with super knees is that what the end game is here? I don't know. But obviously the other bigger market is rehabilitation. And, obviously for people that have been experiencing knee pain for a really long time, if they have complex symptoms and many different complex things happening biomechanically, and they can't figure it out, and they've seen all kinds of experts and they've made no progress, and they're just fed up and they want to get back to hiking, then of course this would be an attractive proposition at $4,500 US dollars. I guess that's up to the individual, but yeah, potentially it has some application. Another comment from Joey here on Instagram that says, my caveat on that would be if someone had a serious injury or a medical condition and this helped them get back to moving in the outdoors, then yeah, cool, but I doubt that's where that would be targeting. So yeah, I guess you have to look into this and see what their end game here is with this product, where they actually want to target, what consumers are they targeting, and I think it's pretty safe to say that they're targeting kind of older people that have had knee problems that really want to get back out into the outdoors. And I think, yeah, potentially be very, very helpful, but for a mass market, 4,500 is probably not accessible to most people. Another comment here, Rach says, hell no, if I'm going for a walk or hike, there's no way that I would want to have robotic trousers on, regardless of how old I am. I hike for the peace and solitude. It would be my luck if they would develop a squeak. Yeah, so this is the thing, is like technology always has the possibility of failing, right? So what happens if you do use this bionic knee and you really push yourself and you go out on a huge hike, you're out in the wilderness, and then the thing fails? That could potentially put you in a situation where it's going to be very difficult for you to get out of that. So, technology, relying on technology, there's always inherent risks in that. So I think, as long as people are taking those risks into account and they're not going above and beyond what they could do to be able to get back safely on their own, just in case the thing failed, then they're probably fine. I mean, will this cause greater biomechanical issues for the foot and hip? That is my number one concern with this. I think it really depends on how it works. I have no idea how it works, other than that it sounds like it's connecting the hamstring to the back of the heel. Yeah, that is a very complex area of the body where we need co-contractions from the foot. We need the brain to be sensing. We need the brain and the foot to be sensing the environment that we're navigating, and we need all of those mechanoreceptors in the foot to be communicating with the muscles, the tendons, the ligaments, the fascia, to the brain to help us interpret that environment. And if there is a point through that chain where it's being sort of hijacked by technology, then it's probably going to limit things like stability, balance. What happens when you are rotating, when you're changing direction. Like, the knee can rotate. Here's the thing. People think of the knee simply as a hinge joint like this, but it's not. The knee can and should rotate, and it needs to be able to rotate. And for me, looking at this thing, that looks like a hinge. It doesn't look like it can rotate. And so that would be my primary concern there. The other concern is that it's expensive. It's $4,500. How long is it going to last? How long can you expect this thing to be helpful for you? $4,500 is a lot to invest in something that may or may not work. The third thing that's on my mind is, like, if this is something as a way for people to avoid surgery, and for people that have come up against a lot of problems and have just really struggled to figure it out, and they just want to get back to like literally taking a daily walk up and down a hill and enjoy themselves, yeah, I think this is absolutely perfect for that. I think the potential to kind of dial down its effectiveness, or dial down that stability that it's providing, such that you can get back eventually to just using your body, I think the practical application of that is potentially very, very helpful. The fourth thing that comes to mind here is is this basically a technological representation of just giving up on your own body and just saying, like, fuck it, I don't want to work out this problem. I'm tired of trying to figure out my biomechanics. I'm tired of seeing experts that don't help me, and I'm just done. It does have a bit of a sense for that for me, and I completely understand people who are in that situation that have seen like hundreds of experts and they just can't get anywhere, and they're just getting to the point where they're just like, fuck it, I'm going to spend $4,500 on this on these trousers that is going to solve that problem for me. And I totally understand that. And there was one person who reached out to me on Instagram and said, oh, that gives me hope. And I think, yeah, if this is the thing that gives you hope, like if you're hoping for this to become more accessible, and as the technology gets better to become cheaper and cheaper, and as the adoption goes up, if that's the hope that you're relying on, great. I'm so excited for you that gives you hope that you could get back outside. But I'm saying in most cases it's not the only option. If you have the agency and the time and the effort to go out and learn your own body and apply some of the things that I'm teaching you about the foot, about the knee, about the hip, then that is also hope for you as well. And it doesn't have to be just solely reliant on technology. And the thing there is that learning is the prerequisite to improving anything. I can't just simply give you a step-by-step program and say this is going to fix your knee pain. That's not how it works. It's a process of understanding your body and learning how things work. And I think a lot of people kind of forget that. A lot of people just want a pill that is going to solve everything. Here you have it right there for you. If you want to pay $4,500, it's basically the pill. But like I said, who knows whether it's going to make things better or worse or what. So it says here in the article the trousers weigh 7 pounds. So they're likening this MoGo core robot engine to something like a carbon fiber boomerang. It sits just outside of your shin, knee and thigh like a second leg. It's hard to believe that this little machine can do so much. The knee joint of the exoskeleton is one of the lightest magnetic actuators in the world, an electric motor not so different from that in Tesla. The braces zip right into pants designed by ArcTeryx. The tailoring integration between the Skip's electronic and ArcTeryx's performance fabrics is refined. Seeing photos of myself wearing the MoGo later, I'm actually surprised how subtle it looks on my body because of the sensations of wearing the braces is comfortable, but by no means subtle. So yeah, I guess if they can get to the point where they have that motor, this mechanical system on the inside of the pants rather than the outside of the pants, that's going to be even more covert, and probably I think that's an important kind of part of this whole thing. If you are able to walk past someone and for them not to even notice that you're wearing this thing, you're going to have much more adoption, I think. So I want to read a little passage here from someone who's actually used this. He says, what's most trippy is just walking around. MoGo kicks your knee forward with each step, almost like a doctor testing your reflexes with a mallet. It was a bit too eager, perhaps. That didn't bother me. The only unsettling thing was that I experienced was that for whatever reason, MoGo would sometimes kick out my left leg against my will when climbing the stairs. Yeah, imagine if you're hiking along and you have literally no control over your human body. Like, what if you are on the edge of a cliff and this thing decides to just like kick out, it's causing you to lose balance, and then you end up dead on the side of a cliff. Like this has huge opportunities for legality. Like if this thing messes up and you are in a really high risk situation, I really don't see a world where people are going to be able to genuinely use these things in the mountains safely if they are having issues like that. And I'm not sure like what is the technology, like what it's based on. They did mention AI here somewhere in this article, and the final point at the end basically just says, both Skip and ArcTeryx readily admit that the product is a work in progress that's still being refined for commercial release. You could bet your ass that's true. Whether you love or hate the product comes down to not just the sensation of wearing nylon, lithium, carbon fiber, but of wearing an AI that's literally in control of your body. This is probably the most important thing. Like if there is AI involved in this, AI can be hacked unless it's completely built on blockchain. And when I say built on blockchain, I mean that the entire thing is decentralized and built on a blockchain. Whereas most things that are built on blockchain, they're actually just storing like hashes and very small parts of information on the blockchain, and everything else is built in a typical Web 2 environment, meaning that it can be hacked. So unless this is actually built on something like the internet computer, an ICP, is completely open to being hacked. And me personally, I don't want my body to be hacked when I'm out in the mountains. So for me personally, I'm not really interested in opening up my hiking or my body to be potentially hacked because there's an AI that is in control of my movement when I'm in a risky environment. That's a decision for you to make. For me personally, that is definitely not something that I want to do, and I think it's probably a huge challenge that the developers here need to overcome before we see any level of adoption, especially at the price point. So there you have it, guys. That is the MoGo, the mountain goat, the world's first powered clothing. Super interesting development, something I really wanted to talk about. They are my thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments section. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you enjoyed this video and this content, and I will see you on the summit.